The vast majority of people that I see, particularly business owners, focus exclusively on risk. We're risk takers. We put everything on the line for our business. And the issue is that we often take that same risk appetite and expect that we can have the Midas touch when it comes to investing. Just because I've created a 7-figure or multi-7-figure business, I can go and do property development with no experience. I can go and trade currencies and commodities on the open market with no trading experience. The amount of business owners I've seen do their ass because they have not appropriately understood risk is unbelievable. My philosophy on this is that you should take the least amount of risk necessary to achieve your financial goal. We make the lowest assumption that we possibly can. For many of our clients, that assumption is like an 8% return. It's really not hard over long term to get an 8% return. We can go and get a diversified index fund and over a 10-year period of time, it's done an 8% return and set and forget it. So, and obviously that depends on your risk appetite as well. But once again, we set fair and realistic expectations around the lowest amount of risk that we can afford to take because we frankly have no influence over it. How does that change your perspective about how you go about building wealth? So let's unpack this further. Now, if we simplify everything else, where we don't need to be experts in wealth management, we don't have to be experts in asset selection, investing, how much easier do you think it is for you to maximize and become an expert in creating surplus? It's easy, isn't it? Because how do we define surplus, guys? Like, what are the components that contribute towards surplus? Spending. And then what's the other part? Income. Simple, right? There's two things that I can optimize for to influence my surplus. Sounds simple, but there is a process to this. So we need to overcome the taboos. Who talks about their cash flow with anybody? Yeah. And everyone else? Why not? If you don't talk about it, how do you improve it? Because here's the thing. What gets tracked gets measured. What gets measured gets improved. So just by show of hands, who has some sort of tracking mechanism for their cash flow in their household? They run a budget, they potentially got some software, okay? All right? And how often do you look at it? Daily? Weekly? Monthly? Quarterly? Okay? All right? So the system that I'm going to show you is going to allow us to work towards our strengths. Because for the vast majority of people that I've ever worked with, that I've ever met, 80+% of those people suck at budgeting. Who's good at budgeting? Yeah, about right.
Budget.
There we go. And this is the problem, right? We set ourselves up for failure because budgeting is a static exercise that can only be reviewed after the fact. I set an unrealistic expectation. I said, I'm only going to spend $50 a week. I'm not going to go out for that coffee every morning. I'm not going out on the weekend. I'm going to stay at home watching Netflix, right? And then all of a sudden, it might be a week or a couple of weeks or a month. You fall off the wagon, something happens, you have a blowout, you go back and look at the budget, you feel guilty, you go, oh shit, I'm an idiot. And then we rinse and repeat the process again.